Welcome back, everyone. Another serious warning to Nigeria government from Donald Trump. It will be a many-time strike. Donald Trump released another threat to Nigeria. Donald Trump has warned that the United States may carry out additional military strikes in Nigeria if attacks on Christians continue, despite Nigeria officials insisting there is no systematic persecution of religious groups. The warning came during the interview with the New York Times published on Thursday. The comment followed the U.S. military strike on Christmas Day targeting Islamic State militants in northwest Nigeria, which the Nigeria government described as a joint operation against terrorists, which nothing to do with the particular religion. Trump said he hoped the strike could be a one-time action, but added that the further attacks could occur if Christians continue to be targeted in Nigeria. And this is the reason why Raleigh Moore said that more strikes are coming in his last interview because of the warning the ISIS gave to Christians in Nigeria. So my people, let me allow you guys to listen and hear what Arise News said concerning this news as well as other trending news in Nigeria, especially as House of Assembly in Rivers State moved to impeach Fubara, the governor of Rivers State. Take a listen.
President Donald Trump has said there could be more strikes by the U.S. in Nigeria if Christians are killed in this African nation, even as Nigeria has previously denied that Christians here are subjected to systematic persecution. Trump's comments in an interview with the New York Times were published on the newspaper's website on Thursday. Trump made the remarks when asked about Washington's Christmas Day military strike in Nigeria. The U.S. military said at the time it carried out a strike against Islamic State militants in northwest Nigeria at the request of Nigeria's government. Well, Nigeria said then that the strike was a joint operation targeting terrorists and had nothing to do with a particular religion. I quote, "I'd love to make it a one-time strike, but if they continue to kill Christians, it will be a many-time strike," end of quote. And this was what Donald Trump had to say. When asked about his own African advisor having said that Islamic State and Boko Haram militants were killing more Muslims than Christians, Trump responded, and I quote, "I think that Muslims are being killed also in Nigeria, but it's mostly Christians," end of quote. Trump, in late October, began warning that Christianity faces an existential threat in Nigeria and threatened to militarily intervene in the West African country over what he says is its failure to stop violence targeting Christian communities. Well, from that, we now come back home to drama in Rivers State, as the Rivers State House of Assembly has commenced impeachment proceedings against the Rivers State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara. At a plenary on Thursday, Majority Leader of the House, Honorable Major Jack, brought to the attention of the Speaker a notice of gross misconduct against the Governor. Relying on Section 188 of the Constitution, the lawmaker reeled out 7 points of gross misconduct against Governor Fubara. Some of the accusations include spending funds without budgetary approval, the demolition of the Assembly complex, extra budgetary spending, withholding funds meant for the Assembly Service Commission, and refusal to obey the Supreme Court on the financial autonomy of the House. The Deputy Leader, Honorable Linda Stewart, also brought forward a notice of gross misconduct against the Deputy Governor, that's Professor Ngozi Odu. 26 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly signed the notice, which they alleged was against the Nigerian Constitution. Amaole said the notice will be served to Fubara in the next 7 days, while the plenary session has been adjourned to the 15th day of January 2026. Residents await the unfolding political scenario in the coming days.
Mr. Speaker, we conclude by stating that the governor has shown that he is not prepared to govern Rivers State in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, and his oath of office. The Supreme Court, in suit number SC/CV/1174/2004, condemned his actions when he stated that the 8th respondent fear of impeachment by the Rivers State House of Assembly is no justification for his attack on the House of Assembly, the Constitution, the government of Rivers State, and the rule of law. Political disagreement cannot justify this attack and contempt for the rule of law by the governor of Rivers State or any person.
The majority leader has just laid before the House the notice of allegations of gross misconduct brought pursuant to Section 188 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended 1999, and this particular letter was signed by 26 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, which the majority leader has read their names. Distinguished colleagues, I am now in receipt of this letter, and pursuant to the sections of the 1999 Constitution as amended, I will ensure that this letter is forwarded to His Excellencies similar Fubara, GSSRS, Governor of Rivers State.
Well, meanwhile, the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State has rejected the impeachment proceedings commenced by the Rivers State House of Assembly against Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy Ngozi Odu, warning that the move could further harm the state's fragile political environment. In a statement signed by the party's spokesperson, Darlington Nwauju, on Thursday, the APC said it was alarmed by the development in the Assembly and described the resort to impeachment as untenable. It urged lawmakers, particularly APC members in the Assembly, to resist what it described as external pressures aimed at undermining the state government. It added that the party would take steps to prevent internal disagreements from disrupting governance in Rivers State and cautioned lawmakers against external interference to destabilize the Fubara administration. Well, elsewhere, but still in politics, the national chairman of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, Senator David Mark, has said the party is reviewing its constitution to ensure it reflects present realities, meets future challenges, and aligns with global best practices in Democratic Party administration. Mark, who spoke at the inauguration of a 22-member ADC Constitution Review Committee in Abuja yesterday, explained that the exercise was not about changing principles, but about strengthening them. The former president of the Senate directed the committee to thoroughly review the existing ADC constitution and identify areas requiring amendment, clarification, or updating. He said the exercise aimed to ensure clarity, fairness, inclusiveness, and accountability in the party's structures and processes. Well, now to some cheery news. President Bola Tinubu has praised corporate Nigeria, citizens and other stakeholders in the Nigerian capital market for surpassing the 100 trillion naira milestone on the Nigerian exchange. Tinubu described this record achievement as an inspiration for the investing public operating in the money and capital markets. He urged Nigerians to deepen their investments in the local economy, assuring that 2026 as a year will yield even greater returns as his administration's economic reforms continue to deliver stronger outcomes. With the Nigerian exchange crossing the historic 100 trillion naira market capitalization mark, the country is witnessing the birth of a new economic reality and rejuvenation. Now, our final story this morning, as Nigeria's democracy is facing a critical and time-sensitive threat as the Senate remains on recess despite the urgent need to pass the 2025 Electoral Bill. Civil society organizations and pro-democracy advocates are raising an alarm and calling on Senate President Godswill Akpabio to immediately reconvene the Senate and prioritize the passage of this essential legislation. Under the current Electoral Act, the Independent National Electoral Commission is mandated to issue the notice of election 1 year before the scheduled date. Now, if the amendment bill is not passed before the notice is released, INEC will be legally compelled to conduct Nigeria's next general elections under the outdated 2022 framework. This would compromise urgently needed reforms and undermine public trust in the electoral process. The 2025 Electoral Bill contains some of the most transformative electoral provisions Nigeria has seen in recent years, including the early release of INEC funding for timely preparation, mandatory audited accounts by INEC, the NIN requirement for voter registration to ensure a cleaner voter register, clear election timelines, the introduction of early voting, and expanding voting rights for for inmates. All right, there's several stories for us to unpack this morning, but before we do so, let's get a feel of what's happening in Rivers State as Arise correspondent Andy Omano joins us from Port Harcourt to bring us updates on the impeachment proceedings. Andy Omano, good morning and Happy New Year to you. Are you live with us? You're connected to the morning show now.
Thank you so much. Great to have me once again. Good morning, Nigerians.
Morning, Andy. Real quickly.
All right, I must say.
Give us a sense of what's on ground.
Good morning.
Yeah. Give us a sense of what's on ground.
Yeah. Yes, Rufai. The state capital, I should say, this Friday morning, is calm. It's calm, and everybody is going about their legitimate businesses, as it were. Yesterday was when the third impeachment proceedings against Mr. Governor was initiated, and the discussion you would expect is how it is going to pan out at the end of it all. Opinions here are divided. There are those who are for the governor, and there are those who are for members of the House of Assembly. But one major issue that they've always raised is trying to preserve the entity called Rivers State. That if they don't, then it will be one of the most not too good thing to do, because they need the river system to be able to function. Many groups have been speaking, civil society organizations, personalities who felt that whatever is the issue between the lawmakers and the governor, they should convene and over a round table to discuss these issues, more so when both parties are in the same political party, that is the governing All Progressives Congress at the national level. Don't forget that these lawmakers we are talking about, a good chunk of them defected to the APC. And the governor is also of the APC. And so Rivers people are asking, why not they mend fences? Whatever differences, they should come together in the interest of the Rivers people. Because, as is often said, when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. And they've always referenced the 6 months of emergency rule that the Rivers people went through. And so, Rufai, for now, that is the position as we speak.
Okay, Omano. There was this indication yesterday that FCT Minister Nyesom Wike visited the House of Assembly, and that shortly after he left, this impeachment proceedings, the notice was given. So I'd like you to speak to the role of Nyesom Wike in this particular matter. Did he instigate it? Was he actually at the House of Assembly yesterday as part of his door-to-door, house-to-house, village-to-village, clan-to-clan, thank you tour in Rivers State? And then beyond that, of course, the House of Assembly now is effectively APC. Governor Fubara himself is also APC. Apparently, in Rivers State, the APC local is against him. The APC federal is supporting him. Now, this 1 week, 1 day, 1 trouble, 1 hour, 1 trouble situation in Rivers State. What's your reading as the man on the ground?
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Abati. Two plenty questions, but I try to see how I can maze through them, as it were. Was the FCT minister at the Assembly complex yesterday? No, that is a rumor from the pit of hell. We all live in Port Harcourt. The FCT minister was not there yesterday. The only thing the FCT minister did yesterday was his thank you visit to Bonny local government area. He was not at the Assembly complex. Both lawmakers and the governor are members of the APC, correct? Very, very correct. But, of course, you know that you have two factions of the APC in Rivers State. The faction led by Meka Beke and that led by Tony Okosha. The faction led by Meka Beke are those supporting the governor. The ones led by Tony Okosha, I don't know how to put it, but I don't think they have that tacit support for the governor, as it were. But when the governor did defected to the APC, the Tony Okosha faction of the APC visited the governor in government house. And so that is why I say I don't know where to put it, as it were. At the national level, yes, the body chemistry is like they are for the governor. So this is the situation playing out here as we speak. But as I said earlier on, what the Rivers people are asking is whether political divide, whether religious or anyhow, they want these political actors to always recognize the fact that if anything untoward has happened, it is the Rivers people that will suffer. They've always referenced the 6 months of emergency rule. And so what many are asking for is, why not mend the offenses now that both of you are in the same political party? And to the FCT minister had always stated that these three arms of government, that is the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, should work independently. Just yesterday, the spokesperson of the House of Assembly, Dr. Enemi George, did say that those who are trying to drag the FCT minister into what is going on in Rivers State currently are not telling Nigerians the truth. What are his reasons? He said for about 1 to 3 years, the governor has not taken the budget to the House. So he's spending the Rivers people money, according to him, without approval, and that shouldn't be it at all. And so that is the position. Yes, sir.
Omano, as a man on the ground in Rivers State, how do you think this political higihaga, to borrow the expression of my brother Obayagbon of Edo State, how do you think this higihaga will be resolved? What are the prospects for stability and politics in Rivers State?
Yeah, I think, Dr. Abati, the only way this could be resolved is for both actors to come from their high horses. Because if you are fighting, Bob Marley did say that he who fights to run away lives to fight another day. If not for the politics, is about the people. And if actors who are in the political turf does have issue, what I think should be the greatest consideration is how would it affect the people that will represent? And so I would rather suggest, as one who is on ground here, that they should mend fences, come together. You have elders in Rivers State. Rivers is one of Nigeria's very cosmopolitan states. And so there are elders here. There are opinion leaders who can say, okay, can we come together? Whether in APC, PDP, or wherever political parties these politicians are applying their card, they are first of all Rivers people. And so they should come together, give and take. The executive, the legislature, and the judiciary need to do their job independently, but it has to be complementary, Dr. Batty. And I think that is what needed to be done in the interest of the Rivers people. Because if this lingers beyond what it should be, I don't think that it's going to be good for anybody. Don't forget that 2027 is just around the corner. And if these politicians are bickering, as it is today now, it does indicate that the place is going to be very slippery next year, politically. Abati.
Obayagbon, whom I quoted earlier, who say we are having a situation of krinkum krankum in River States. Proverbs to bones and silence.
Thank you so much, Andy Omano, reporting live from Port Harcourt. We now bring the conversation back into studio to unpack this and several other stories that are dominating the news cycle this morning. Rufai.
I think those that say, let both parties sit and make peace, I think that's a jaded argument, and I knock that argument out real quickly. Is it today Wiki and Fubara have been sitting down to talk peace? Do you know how many peace that have been drawn up? Nothing. It's not going to work. All this idea of, let the elders, what are the elders going to do? No, people, they're not going to listen to what is happening. So what is happening reminds me of a gambit in a game of chess. Originally from the Italian word gambito, where it talks about you setting up a plan for somebody to trip. And Fubara was the first to play that gambit by joining the APC to be able to nullify the powers of Wike. The reason why Fubara probably made that decision was because even after the so-called peace deal, and that's why I'm against the state of emergency by President Tinubu, but anyway, he did it to give himself options. He wanted political options, that's why he did it. So after the state of emergency that you thought both of them were at peace, they were singing Kumbaya, but the fight still went on. So Fubara felt, let me join the APC to be able to protect myself. This conversation we're having today is easier because if he was in the APC, if he was in the PDP, then you will not hear the APC saying, oh, this is not good. It's not going to be like an internal civil war. So Fubara won the first leg of the gambit. And that's why I was talking about 200 for President Tinubu, 0 for Wike. But now, Wike has also played a gambit. By saying despite joining the APC, it does not insulate you from that impeachment. I can still go ahead and impeach you. And this is an indication that, hey, if you do not cooperate, I will go for your jugular. So today now they are at parity. But the interesting part of this game is there will be scenarios that will settle it out. And that's why the person we have not heard from will be the one to take the decisive blow. And that's President Tinubu. So I'll give you three scenarios President Tinubu can do. The first one is a light attack. The light attack means merry-go-round, see both of them, talk to them in Abuja. It's not going to solve anything. There's still going to be that supremacy battle. Fubara will say he's governor. Wike will say I'm political godfather. It's not going to solve anything. We've done that. We've always done the light attack. The medium attack is to go one step further. Get the political party, get the architecture of the APC to be able to whip Wike in line. But Wike is not a member of their political party. So they are still going to go around, and the light and medium attack is pretty much the same. But the heavy attack will be President Tinubu removing Wike from that position he is. How is he going to probably do it? He might want to do it in a way so that people will not think that it's from him. So probably he might call a cabinet reshuffle. And some people do not come back. And when you look at that, to a large extent, that might be a final solution to this problem. Because as long as you have these two men in a position of power, there will be contentions. And that's why there have been contentions. But if the balance of scale of power changes, one has power and the other one doesn't have power, it's easier to resolve. Because when you look at it, Wike is not somebody that fights and backs down until he gets what he wants. The same Wike that prevented Atiku Abubakar from campaigning, the candidate of his own political party in his state for presidency. The same Wike that went against them because things didn't work in his favor. As long as he still has a position of power, and Fubara has a position of power as governor in the state, there's going to be contention. The question will be, will President Tinubu be ready to take the heavy attack method? Time will tell. Will he want to build his political time before he takes that measure? Time will tell. Because you see, the premise at which Wike fights today, apart from owning the political structure, is because he also has an element of state backing, which is because he's a minister. If he loses that, the matter becomes easy. Secondly, let me also spin that scenario. Or probably if President Tinubu wants to go with Wike, then he might say, okay, let's open the cannons and allow Fubara be removed. But if that happens, it's also bad for President Tinubu because it's a big indictment on the APC. And it will show other governors that those that are running to the APC for refuge, you might not be able to get it, he might not speak for you. So most likely, we have gotten to the point, those conversations, meeting with them will not work. It is the time for the heavy attack. Will President Tinubu be courageous enough to have a cabinet reshuffle and say someone like Wike goes to settle this river conundrum, or still tries to work with Wike against Fubara, or pit it out with time? Time will tell.
Okay, let me put it like this. Every president has a Mr. Fix-It, and, or a set of Mr. Fix-Its. Now, Mr. Fix-It, in the popular Nigerian political parlance, can also outlive his usefulness. And then, of course, the Mr. Fix-It will eventually discover that he cannot either fix things or resolve things. Nyesom Wike, obviously, is a Mr. Fix-It of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in Rivers State, and you may say other states. After all, he told Ajibola Bashiru the other day that does he even know how he ended up becoming a senator. So, Nyesom Wike, obviously, is the Donald Trump of Rivers politics. And just as Mr. Donald Trump was saying yesterday to the New York Times, it's not about law. He says he doesn't believe in international law. It is his own morality that determines what he wants to do. And you seem to have, at a miniature level, that kind of situation in Rivers State. But the caution here, is that every Mr. Fix-It has his own sunset occasion. But as to the House of Reps, I think it is useful that Andy Omano had said that, Minister Wike was not on the floor of the House, and that we cannot say that he was the one who instigated it. But that's in terms of what people saw. What if he was the one who instigated the impeachment proceedings in that House of Assembly, and he didn't need to be there physically anyway? The other point to make, however, is that this is the third impeachment proceedings against Governor Fubara. The only difference now is that he has already deported himself to the APC, and you have the APC National saying, this is our governor, nobody can remove him. However, what everyone should realize is Section 188 of the 1999 Constitution, which is a part of the law that deals with the impeachment processes against governors and deputy governors. Section 188, sub 11, says that what constitutes gross misconduct is what the House of Assembly, in its own opinion, determines to be gross misconduct. So if they want to impeach him, they can just say, well, he looked at another man's wife in a way he should not look at cuckold his neighbor's wife. After all, the 10 Commandments says in one of the paragraphs that thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's property. It can be removed simply on that basis. That's the status of the law. But the long-term implication will be about the stability of Rivers State and the electoral process in Rivers State. Opposition parties in Rivers State will seem to have a good opportunity to strengthen their own processes and see how they can take advantage of this situation, if they have the capacity to do so. Now, the topics were so many. Now, you talked about ADC. Now, the ADC will say it's going to review its constitution to allow for inclusion. There are persons who are coming to join the party. I'm not very familiar with the ADC constitution, but there may be clauses there that may not allow people who are joining at this moment. So they will need to review that 22-member constitution. We need to review the constitution to remove hurdles, since the party is trying to bring in as many people as possible. That's what I imagine may be the case. But a political party can accommodate all shades of interest. And ADC, of course, is an evolving party in terms of, its recent circumstances. You talked about the NGS, the Nigerian Stock Exchange, doing about 100 trillion. Well, congratulations to Mr. Kwaranga, who is the chairman of the NGS, and also to Mr. Kukola, who is the managing director of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Now the Stock Exchange is doing well. Reuters has reported that again and again, and we're excited. In the statement by the presidency, however, they were saying, oh, the Nigerian Stock Exchange has even done better than the S&P 500. Well, I think that's an error. How? The S&P 500 did very well throughout 2025. It's still doing very well in 2026 because of AI. But if you say we're doing better than our peers in the emerging markets, maybe, okay, FTSE 100 in the UK, maybe, but not S&P 500. But the bigger challenge here is that the government of the day has tried to link everything in the economy at the microeconomic level, at the macroeconomic level, to the stock exchange doing well. No, there's also a caveat there. Why? Because it's people who invest in the stock exchange that will benefit. Investors, both local and foreign. And then, of course, if you are not on the stock exchange, you are not going to benefit. The 100 trillion naira, market capitalization is not going to come to you. The third caveat is that those who are very familiar with the subject say this is as a result of devaluation, and also that's devaluation of the naira, massive devaluation of the naira, and also asset valuation that now makes the stock market of Nigeria to be doing very well. But as an ordinary man in Nigeria, I ask the question, yes, the stock market can do very well. I've congratulated Kwaranga and Popola. About ordinary people, those of us who are not on the stock exchange. The cost of production has gone up. Manufacturing is heavily inflicted. Interest rate is so high. They are quoting foreign reserve. What is the business of the man who wants to buy yam and tomato with foreign reserve? Inflation, they say, is 14.45% as of November 2025, and it will go down to 10% or below by the end of 2026. Those are figures. Now, when we begin to have a proper alignment between monetary policy tightening and fiscal policy, and that gets to the ordinary people, then we can join the government in celebrating. Otherwise, that celebration does not quite get to us. There's one other issue, passage of the Electoral bill. Very quickly on that. Yes, it's good that the Senate of the Federal Republic, the National Assembly, wants to make it a priority. And it is to prevent the 2018 situation when the Buhari administration said, ahead of the 2019 general elections, we could not reform the electoral process because it was too close. They have enough window. And some of the issues that you listed, those are not even the major issues. The major issue is about the credibility of the process itself, the independence of INEC, the technology that they say they are using working, voter registration, which is continuous, being effective, and then the operation of INEC, and then most of all, the behavior of the professional political class in Nigeria, because politicians are the problem. Just as the National Assembly is talking about electoral bill, coming up with electoral reform, moving beyond the electoral 2022, the politicians are working actively to see how they can sabotage that process for their own selfish interests. Can we all come together and build democracy in this country so that we'll stop using the expression, Nigerian democracy is putative, Nigerian democracy is evolving. It cannot keep evolving forever. We must have benchmarks in terms of achievements.
Absolutely, and I'm with you on that. I think I start on a very similar note as I look at Rivers State in the first story and all that's transpiring there. Now, if you look at Nigerian history since 1999, we've had about 170 governors. Of those 170 governors, 6 have faced impeachment. Of those 6, only 2 of the impeachments were permanent, the other 4 being overturned through court rulings. That was Alami Sheiga in Bayelsa and Nyako of Adamawa State. Now, what does this mean? This means that historically, the possibility of a successful impeachment happening here in Nigeria based off of past precedent is just about 1%. So the likelihood of Fubara being successfully impeached, highly unlikely. This instability it caused and the disruption it causes, however, is really the bone of contention. Now, when we look at all of the subsisting issues around here, what is the fundamental issue? The fundamental issue is that there are individuals who say that they own the structure of a state. And because they own the structure of this state, they feel that it is their prerogative to determine what happens in the affairs of that state. What does this show us? This shows us that in, as Dr. Abati said, evolving democracy such as ours, power is not transferred. In an established and vibrant democracy, when a new leader comes into office who has been given a mandate through election, that person is supposed to experience a transfer of power. In this instance, however, we see that the ownership of structures is not transferred to anybody. Whoever acquired those structures, appropriated them or built them is the individual who remains with the ownership of them. How are these structures built? Through identity politics. Oh, that's my man from my place. We are from the same place. The other way, through binding transactions. What point am I getting to here? I'm getting to the point that all of this is because there are individuals who say they own the structures of the party, and that is where the source of their power lies. How do they own them? We don't know. There are several allegations and several speculations about how the ownership of these structures is acquired, whether it be through purchasing nomination forms for people at elections, whether it be through financing people's campaigns, whether it be through various other projects and exploits that benefit these individuals financially or otherwise. This is how this loyalty is bought. It's a deep steep and complex patronage system. Now, what needs to be done? Because my argument is that what we see in River State can easily be replicated in any other state. For as long as our nomination forms are at sky-high prices and people need sponsors to come together, or people need benefactors who will come and see them through and become their political godfathers, this is not unique to Nigeria. All around the world, people have sponsors and benefactors and donors who come to their aid financially when it's time for elections. However, the one thing that is missing is the public disclosure. Let there be transparency. Let's know that if there's a State House of Assembly, for example, this is the person who bought their nomination form. Let it be a matter of public record so that the public can also be aware of some political indebtedness that may exist when they're going to elections to vote for their candidates. In all of this, it's unfortunate that the people of River State will experience yet another disruption. Will another presidential intervention come and save the day, as happened in December 2023 and happened in March 2025? We wait to see what that intervention will look like. However, it's clear that the APC has faced its first legitimacy crisis in River State, in that we now wait to see whether, when APC was laughing at other parties about lacking internal party discipline, whether the APC's own internal party discipline will be able to sit down with members who are exhibiting anti-party activities by trying to bring down their own governor from their own party. Now let's go to ADC as we talk about internal party democracy. Reconstituting their constitution and so forth, very important development, especially because I go back again to the issue of legitimacy. 2027 will largely be decided by legitimacy. If ADC can separate themselves from an APC who on a national scale as a ruling party is fighting for legitimacy as people are complaining about a decade of economic decline. PDP has its own wranglings that have caused it to lose legitimacy in the face of the public. If ADC can have a transparent process that reflects the people's will, possibly that legitimacy may make them a more preferable platform. I close with the NGX, and 100 trillion naira is a massive milestone. However, let's not forget the fact that this all happened before we stepped into the era of the tax laws. The tax laws have the introduction of the capital gains tax, which moves from 10% to 30% for anything above 150 million naira. KPMG yesterday released a report, says Nigeria's new tax law, inherent errors, inconsistencies, gaps, and omissions. I urge you all to go and look out for that. Unfortunately, I don't have time to get into it. But the point I am making is that as we celebrate the resilience of the Nigerian Stock Exchange against all odds, let's also be careful about policies that can erode from those victories that we've made, such as the 30% capital gains tax that many institutional investors have queried and are concerned about.
Welcome to Shamra Senior